Have you ever bought something cheap, only to replace it months later, and then bought the cheap version again? You're stuck in a cycle that's costing you far more than you realize. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'd love for you to subscribe, because we explore the financial habits that separate those who build wealth from those who don't. Today, we're talking about one of the most insidious wealth traps of modern consumer culture: the illusion of savings. When you buy cheap, you're not saving money, you're borrowing from your future self, and the interest is steep. Let's start with the math because it's revealing. Imagine you need a winter coat. The quality version costs $180 and lasts 10 years. The cheap version costs $40 and lasts 1 year. On the surface, you're saving $140. But here's what actually happens. You buy the cheap coat. 1 year later, it falls apart. You buy another cheap coat. This repeats 10 times. You've now spent $400 on 10 coats instead of $180 on a single coat that still has 5 years of life left. That's the poverty penalty. That's what financial researchers call the extra money poor and working class people spend because they cannot afford quality up front. But here's the revealing part. This trap isn't limited to people with low incomes. Middle-class consumers fall into it constantly. They optimize for the price tag in front of them, not the total cost over time. The wealthy, by contrast, operate under a different philosophy. It's called buy it for life. The idea is simple. You purchase items built to last decades, often at a higher initial cost, and you stop replacing them. You spend more now to spend nothing later. Over a lifetime, this philosophy compounds into enormous savings. Take shoes as an example. A cheap pair costs $30. It lasts 3 months. A quality pair costs $120. It lasts 5 years. Over a 30-year period, assuming replacements, cheap shoes cost you $3,600. Quality shoes cost you $720. The wealthy person pays more upfront, but saves 80% over time. Why does this happen? Quality items are built differently. They use better materials. They're constructed with tighter tolerances. Stitching is stronger. Fabrics are more durable. The manufacturing process itself is slower and more deliberate. This costs more to produce, but it costs less per year of use. But this principle extends far beyond shoes and coats. It applies to furniture. A cheap chair costs $100 and wobbles after 2 years. A quality chair costs $400 and supports you for 20 years. The math is identical. It applies to kitchen tools, to bedding, to lighting, to storage. Every category of goods follows this pattern. Here's what's insidious about the cheap trap. It feels good in the moment. You walk into a store, see a price tag that's easy on your wallet, and you feel relief. You feel like you're being smart. The initial purchase doesn't hurt, but you're not accounting for the recurring pain. You're not accounting for the moment 6 months later when the thing breaks and you have to buy it again. The wealthy person feels pain at the register too. They see that higher price tag, but they've trained themselves to think differently about it. They're buying 30 years of sitting. They're not buying a pan. They're buying 10,000 meals. They're amortizing the cost across time. And when you do that math, the expensive thing becomes the cheap thing. Psychologically, this reveals something profound. People with money think in terms of cost per use. People without money think in terms of sticker price. It's one of the clearest dividing lines in consumer behavior. If you can train yourself to think like the wealthy person, you've unlocked one of the simplest paths to financial freedom. And if you're finding this perspective useful, please like this video. These kinds of fundamental insights into how money actually works are what we're all about here, and your engagement helps us reach more people who are ready to think differently about their finances. Now, there's another layer to this. When you buy cheap, you're not just spending more money, you're spending more mental energy. You're spending more time replacing things. You're creating more waste. You're adding friction to your life. Every time something breaks, you have to research a replacement, make a purchase, learn to use the new item. That's time you could spend on work, on relationships, on rest. The wealthy understand this. They see quality purchases as a way to simplify their lives. They buy once, and then they stop thinking about it. They buy a quality mattress, and they sleep on it for 15 years. They buy quality dishes, and they use them every day for decades. They buy quality furniture, and it becomes part of their home's permanent landscape. This creates a psychological benefit. That's hard to quantify, but real nonetheless. You feel more at ease in spaces filled with things that work, that feel solid, that don't require constant replacement. You're not constantly shopping. You're not constantly stressed about things breaking. You have stability. Let's talk about specific categories where this philosophy transforms your finances. Furniture is the most obvious. A cheap desk might cost $80 and last 2 years. A quality desk costs $600 and lasts 20 years. That's a savings of $1,200 over 2 decades. Bedding is another. A cheap mattress costs $300 and lasts 5 years. A quality mattress costs $1,200 and lasts 20 years. Over a 50-year lifetime, you'd spend $3,000 on cheap mattresses, but only $6,000 on 2 quality mattresses. The gap widens as you live longer. Kitchen equipment follows the same pattern. A cheap knife lasts a year. A quality knife lasts 20 years. A cheap pot lasts 3 years. A quality pot lasts 30 years. If you cook even moderately, you'll use these items thousands of times. The cost per use jumps dramatically with quality. A cheap shirt costs $12 and lasts 6 months. A quality shirt costs $40 and lasts 5 years. Over a 30-year period, you'll spend $720 on cheap shirts, but only $240 on quality shirts. You also have a better-looking wardrobe, by the way, which has psychological and even professional benefits. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wealthy don't just buy quality items and keep them longer. They actively maintain them. They repair them. They oil wood furniture. They wash wool carefully. They resole shoes. This extends the life even further. A quality shoe that costs $120 becomes a $100 shoe when you factor in repairs over 20 years. This maintenance habit is crucial. Cheap items aren't designed to be repaired. There's no ecosystem of repair services because the item costs less than repair would. Quality items are designed with repairability in mind. You can find replacement parts. You can find people who know how to fix them. This is a massive difference that's often overlooked. There's also a sustainability angle here that aligns with the wealthy mindset. Buying cheap means constantly discarding things. That creates waste. It requires constant consumption. It demands constant resource extraction. The wealthy person who buys once every 20 years is actually consuming less. They're producing less waste. They're putting less strain on the environment. The cheap consumer is actually the one creating the environmental damage through constant replacement. Now, I want to address something important. This philosophy isn't about snobbery. It's not about buying expensive designer goods or status symbols. A quality item doesn't need a famous brand name. It needs to be well made. Sometimes the most durable items are the most humble. A basic wooden chair made by a craftsperson will outlast a trendy designer chair made overseas. A simple ceramic mug will last longer than a branded mug. Quality is about construction, not prestige. In fact, one of the dirty secrets of luxury branding is that a lot of expensive items aren't actually more durable. They're more expensive because of the brand. A true quality purchase is one where you're paying for longevity, not for a logo. The wealthy understand this distinction. They'll buy an expensive item without a brand if it's built better, and they'll skip an expensive branded item if it's not well constructed. So how do you start making this transition? First, slow down your purchasing. When you need something, don't buy immediately. Research. Find reviews that specifically talk about durability. Ask yourself, could I see myself using this in 5 years? In 10 years? In 20 years? If the answer is no, it's probably not worth buying at any price. Second, look for items designed for repair. Can you replace the handle on a pan? Can you resole a shoe? Can you replace a zipper? If the answer is yes, the item is likely worth the investment. Third, understand that quality sometimes costs more initially, but the cost per use is lower. Do the math. Divide the price by the expected years of use. Divide that by the number of times you'll use it per year. That's your true cost. Suddenly, expensive items look cheap, and cheap items look expensive. Fourth, look for items that transcend trends. A simple wooden table in a clean design will look good in 30 years. A trendy plastic item will look dated in 3 years. If you're buying something to last decades, it should be something you won't get tired of looking at. Finally, join the philosophy intentionally. This isn't just about buying better stuff. It's about developing a different relationship with consumption. It's about deciding that you want fewer, better things. It's about understanding that spending more on fewer items leaves you with more money overall and more peace of mind throughout your life. The wealthy understand this intuitively. They've seen how compound waste, compound replacement, and compound spending create financial leaks. They've also seen how compound durability, compound savings, and compound simplicity create financial strength. You can understand it too. You can make this shift. The next time you're about to buy something cheap, pause. Think about the total cost. Think about your future self, 6 months from now, replacing the broken item. Think about your future self, 10 years from now, having spent thousands replacing things repeatedly. Then think about the alternative. One purchase, one price, and decades of use. The math is almost always in favor of quality. This is how the wealthy stay wealthy, not through some secret investment strategy, but through small, consistent decisions about how they consume. It compounds over time. It becomes a mindset. It becomes a reality. If this perspective is shifting how you think about your purchases, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're dedicated to exploring the actual habits and decisions that create financial security, and we'd love to have you part of this community. Now I'm curious, what's something you've bought cheap repeatedly that you wish you'd invested in quality from the start? Drop that in the comments. I read every single one, and I think you'll find that many viewers have had the same experience. Your comment might help someone else break free from that cycle too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.